How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to switch it up. I just wanted to have a dialogue about who we think is going to win the Premier League title. I mean, when we look at the table right now, Arsenal are out there with 55 points, 2 points behind Liverpool, same games played. Man City is 1 point behind Liverpool, and Liverpool are top of the table where they deserve to be. In fact, I think they should be higher at the top of the table. I'll never forget that Spurs result where Luis Diaz scored a goal, but VAR ruled it out for offside, even though it wasn't offside. And then they went out there and dropped points in the last minute. It was a tough result for Liverpool. I feel like Liverpool should actually be higher in the table, but it is what it is. Like, we're at a point where we have to take things how they are. And so Liverpool are still in first place. But the key thing is that over the last couple weeks, whenever the games have happened between the big games, like the results have kind of been predictable to me, especially when Liverpool went out to the Emirates and they dropped points to Arsenal. That made sense to me. I mean, without Salah, you wouldn't expect them to go out there and do some damage at Arsenal. I was hoping for a draw, but then when Klopp subbed off Trent in that game, that really felt like the beginning of the end. And I was wondering, like, why would you sub out Trent? Like, that's one of our key players. But now that makes sense. Hindsight's 2020. Trent's gone out there and just re-aggravated his injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but we're looking at the core of Liverpool's squad. Trent is injured for a while. Szoboszlai has gone into that midfield. He was like the first option. Now he's also out for a while. Diego Jota, like this was like a double game week in FPL this week, and Jota went out there, got the assist to Darwin. He's been playing great football. He was the Premier League Player of the Month this month, and he got injured and he's out for 2 months. Darwin Núñez has also gotten injured as well, so he's also going to be missing this Luton game. Salah is also going to be out of this Luton game. There's going to be so many players. I feel like we're going to be coming up with like an academy team. I feel like it could be a bunch of like 20-year-olds like going out there. Probably going to have like an 11 of like Gravenberch, Elliott, probably Diaz on the left and Gakpo up top, but Liverpool are basically Hospital FC. Not to mention our key player. We've got Alisson also injured as well. The thing with Alisson is that Liverpool play in a defense where we're not part of like the top 5 defenses in the league. We're not even part of the top 3 in my humble opinion. It's, Arsenal easily at first place with the lowest expected goals conceded. Then there's a slight drop off to Manchester City, and then there's a slight drop off to everyone else. But the thing with Liverpool is that we have Virgil van Dijk, who's able to be out there and clean up our messes. And on top of that, we have Alisson Becker, who's the best goalkeeper in the world. But like we rely on him over the last 4 to 5 seasons to just clear up the big chances, to be there, just make some big saves. And without him, we're going to be conceding more goals. And that's just without doubt. Last season when Kelleher was in net, he was an XG prevented negative, meaning that whenever he faced an XG of 5, he would let in goals of 6. So that just shows you how much faith I have in this guy. I mean, in his first game, he played really well. But last year, he didn't impress me at all in his like 4 to 5 games that he had. So I'm not optimistic about what he's going to do. So Liverpool, from a defensive perspective, I don't think we're going to be great. But it's not just that. It's that, Salah's potentially injured, Jota's injured, Darwin's injured. There's just so much like wrong with the team right now. And without the creativity of Trent and Szoboszlai in the squad, I'm nervous for what the next couple games are going to be like specifically. I'm sure when the squad is like fully fit and healthy towards the end of the season, we're going to be fine. But the next 4 to 5 games, they're going to be crucial to determining if Liverpool are going to be able to be in the title race or not. The reason why I think the next 4 games are so crucial is because I look at the end of season run-in for Manchester City and wow, like this is just gorgeous. Like I think the only chance City drop points is going to be in game week 34 when they play against Spurs away from home. And even that's going to be a tall task. At least Spurs will be at home. So that'll be like one saving grace. But apart from that, like I don't really think City are going to drop points at all from game week 32 onwards. So Liverpool really have to go out there and be in first or second place. And I think the same thing goes for Arsenal. But I just want to give a real special shout out this week to Chelsea. You know what? Like Chelsea have been a meme team. I mean, look at their season. They're not even in the top 8 right now. Like they've been really inconsistent, ups and downs, and Kuku's been injured for pretty much the entire season. And they've been relying on Nicholas Jackson a bit too much, in my opinion. But you know what? They had a really good performance the last couple of weeks against Aston Villa in the FA Cup. Aston Villa didn't really get a sniff of goal. They've been scoring goals in every single game, but they didn't against Chelsea. And the same sort of goes for Manchester City, where they've been scoring multiple goals week in and week out. But against Chelsea, they really, really struggled. Maybe it was just Haaland who was subpar. He had an XG of 1.8, but didn't get a goal or an assist against Chelsea. The one chance that stands out to me was that cross with KDB on his left foot, whips it into Haaland, and usually he buries that, but he hit it off target. I was really surprised. Like, those are chances that Haaland buries, but it just wasn't his day. And I don't think it was just Holland that was off. I really just got to give some respect to what Chelsea were doing out there. Two players really stood out to me. The first one was Malo Gusto. The way that he was locking up Jeremy Doku. You can't really shut down a player like Jeremy Doku like completely, but he sort of made him work for it. He wasn't able to impact the game like I have seen him in other times whenever he's come on. Gusto had an ability to create a really good chance for Jackson, but bro, Jackson, my guy, like I'm sitting there as a Liverpool fan, my best friend's an Arsenal fan, with neither of us triple captain Holland, so we're out there, we're cheering for Chelsea, really, like, because we just want them to go out there and get a result against Man City, right? And the guy just can't finish his dinner. Like, I don't know what to say about this guy. He really reminds me of Gabriel Jesus, where like his link up play is great, his passing is great, his physicality is great, but he just doesn't finish his chances. And like at this level, with the amount of money that Chelsea are paying you, you just gotta finish these tap-ins, man. And yeah, it's just so frustrating. Like, I can't imagine what it's like as a Chelsea fan to watch this guy play week in and week out, because you're just nervous whenever he gets the chances, because sometimes he buries them and sometimes he doesn't. He's been an extra underperformer this season, and hopefully that's just how it is this season and he'll improve maybe next year. But Chelsea just have a striker curse. So it's one of those things where it's like you never know what's going to happen at Chelsea. And they've just been so inconsistent. But Gusto was a star of the game for me. In fact, I'm going to be looking to bring him into my FPL team at some point in the season, because I don't think they really miss Reece James. Like, Reece James is just so good. He's got to be Chelsea's best player, but they don't really miss him right now. Gusto is playing great. I don't think they need to rush Reece James back. Like, take your time with him. He's been injured over the last 3 to 4 seasons, and that's the thing with Reece is like, when you talk about players from a fantasy perspective, like, availability is one of the best abilities you can offer. Players like Salah, Saka, and from a basketball perspective, like LeBron James, Mikal Bridges, like, these guys never miss games, and that's what makes them so great. But with Reece James, you don't even know when he's going to play. And that's the thing with him. Like, whenever I play in my fantasy draft mode, I never even go for him, because I'm like, this guy is going to miss half the season. Forget about it. And honestly, I don't even think they need to rush him back. Gusto is playing great football. And he wasn't the only player that stood out. The second player that stood out to me was actually Axel Disasi. Like, I just felt like City were bombarding the box. Like, City had like maybe 60 or 70% possession, and Disasi was just clearing the ball away left and right. They really didn't miss Thiago Silva at all. So that's high praise from me. So I just think he has a really strong potential, and he played really great in this game. Another player that's also playing great for Chelsea is also Conor Gallagher. He's actually been adding into the team in terms of goals and assists recently. At Crystal Palace, he was really doing that consistently, week in and week out. But for Chelsea, he hasn't really been doing that at all. So I think a lot of fans have been on his back. So I'm glad to see him like finally putting the performances in and getting the goals and assists that his game requires. And hopefully he can take his game to the next level. He'd be great for the England setup. He works so hard for the team, but right now I'm hoping that he focuses and continues to perform from a goals and assist perspective. So that's the next step I feel like Chelsea will need to take. But regardless, I'm just so thankful. Like, how many teams can go out there and say, hey, we took points away from Manchester City at home and away from home? Not many. I think the only team that did that last year was Brentford. But listen, Brentford, when they played Manchester City, it really just felt like City just had that game on lock. Like, City were going to go out there. They were going to win the game one way or another. I was surprised KDB was benched. Apparently, he picked up like a hamstring injury where he felt tightness in the game and he didn't want to risk it. And that makes sense, especially with how long the season is and how many competitions Manchester City are in. Like, why risk KDB in a game like this, especially at home? But the first 40 minutes, like, City were really frustrated. You could tell that they were trying to pick the lock, and this game was really missing the creativity of KDB. Like, he's just such a world-class player. KDB goes into my all-time Premier League 11. Like, I absolutely love KDB. He's so good. Listen, City have to do whatever they need to do in order to keep him fit for the end of season run-in, because when it comes to the end of season, like, City always find a way to win it. And the combination of KDB and Haaland is better than what Liverpool have with Darwin and Salah, or Trent and Salah, or even what Arsenal have with Odegaard and Saka. I just think that combination of KDB and Haaland is the best in the league. And so if I have to be honest and talk about who I think is going to win the Premier League, it's got to be Manchester City. You look at the end of season run-in and you think to yourself, like, wow, they're going to win a lot of these games. And you look at the current league table, Manchester City are only 1 point behind Liverpool. is really not that far. So I'm just thinking that in the back of my mind, the next 5 or 6 weeks, this is where Liverpool has to go out there and put some distance between themselves and Manchester City. Because we've seen it year in and year out. Like, as a Liverpool fan, I am so scarred. Every single time City go out there, they find a way to just win matches at the end of the season. And like, you just find that they always just win the title. And when you look at the bookmakers right now, I think the City are the odds-on favorites to win the league. And even though they're sitting right now in second place, to me, I think they are the favorites. So if I had to pick a team that would win the league right now, it's got to be Manchester City, especially given the fact that like Liverpool have so many injuries to so many key players. It doesn't really make sense to pick Liverpool, in my opinion. However, if Liverpool are going to go out there and win the league, it's got to be because of one reason: Jurgen Klopp. Klopp has got to be the best manager pound for pound. When we look at the amount of net spend that Manchester City have, and you compare it to what Liverpool have spent, it's peanuts. Like Liverpool don't really spend as much as Man City. Like Man City have the ability whenever, when Pep came in, he revitalized the entire defense. Spent like 100 million on a left back, on a right back, like whatever he wanted to. Klopp doesn't have the luxury to do that. So that's the thing with Klopp, is that he's just moving mountains with peanuts. So I just think Klopp is one of the best managers in world football, pound for pound. And with this being his last season, Liverpool have got to be galvanized to go out there and try their best to win the league. So I just think there's a chance Liverpool can go out there and win it. But to me, I just think Manchester City are going to be the favorites right now, even though they're still in second place with the same amount of games played. The dark horse for the Premier League title race has got to be Arsenal. I would be disrespectful to not talk about them more, because they are definitely in it with a shout. They've been playing really good football recently. I think in the first half of the season, they were just really strong defensively. But recently, they've been scoring a lot of goals. They played against Burnley. They won like 5-0. They went out against West Ham. And that was away from home. Like, I think at the London Stadium. And they won 6-0. Like, the connection between Odegaard and Saka has really just risen and improved. It's not just Odegaard and Saka. It's like Odegaard with the rest of the team. I feel like Odegaard is the key to Arsenal. Like, of course, they've got the star boy Saka, but it's Odegaard that's really stepped up from a creativity perspective. Like, in the first half of the season, Odegaard was kind of just like trying to find his flow with the new midfielders that he was playing with, but recently he's really just taken it up a level and reminding me of like how good he can be from an XG overperformer perspective, where he really reminds me of like Madison, with the way that he can just score goals from outside the box with consistency. So with Odegaard gliding across the pitch and purring, the way that Trossard has been playing, like what an underrated player. Like the way that he was playing at Brighton when Arsenal signed him, I really just felt like he's going to be a key piece of the title run. And with Gabriel Jesus like out of the team, they're not skipping a beat at all. Like Trossard is such a good finisher. His link-up play is incredible. So underrated. Arsenal have all the potential in the world. And the key is that they have two of their key players are actually there this season that weren't there last year. The first being Declan Rice, where I just think that he has the ability to be on the same level as Rodri when we talk about the best CDMs in the league. Because like Declan Rice has been out there, he steps up even in the bigger games, he scored some goals. He's now on the corners for Arsenal. Like his delivery is incredible. Over the last 3 to 4 weeks, we've seen Arsenal score 2 or 3 goals from set pieces. They're so dangerous. Freaking Gabriel gets a goal every week, man, this guy. And then and speaking of Gabriel, his partner Saliba, he's got to be Arsenal's second key. Like having Declan Rice and Saliba just protecting the defense, they're just so strong. I find it that it's just hard for teams to break Arsenal down, and that's why they have the best expected goals conceded in the league. So they've always been a strong defense, even from the beginning of the season, but now they've been putting it together from an offensive perspective where they're scoring lots of goals for fun. And Martinelli is now amongst the goals. I think right now he has 5 or 6 goals. I wonder if he'll end the season with 10 plus goals. That's just something that I'll think about over the course of the season. I hope he does. I'm a fan of Martinelli. He's such a good finisher, but this year hasn't been the same as last year, in my opinion. So he still leaves me wanting more. But I think the potential is still there. And now with Odegaard purring and they're creating lots of chances, wouldn't surprise me at all if Martinelli goes out there and goes on a hot streak. But I feel like if you want to go on the Arsenal mids, the key player to bring would be Odegaard. The thing with Arsenal is that they fumbled the bag last year. You know, away from home, they went out there against West Ham last year. They dropped points. At Southampton at home, they dropped points. In fact, I was actually at those games, so maybe I'm a bad luck charm, but it's not me. Like my best friend was also there, and I think he's gonna be going to one of the games. Like I think he's going to Brentford at home. I think in the next couple weeks. So if they drop points there, then I think he's never gonna be allowed in the Emirates Stadium ever again because he'd be like a bad luck charm. But seriously, I just think Arsenal have a genuine chance to compete for the title as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about them. And the fact they're only 2 points back, they're definitely in the title race. And I think at this point, I would say Manchester City would be first favorites, and I think Liverpool will be second favorites, just on paper. But I think with the amount of injuries, if Liverpool don't pick up points for the next 3 to 4 weeks, they could easily slip to third favorites, and that could easily put Arsenal to second favorites. It just depends how Liverpool are over the next 2 or 3 weeks. That'll determine my opinion on that. But regardless, I just look at these Manchester City fixtures and I just think to myself, like, man, Man City is 1 point off top of the league, and they have these fixtures at the end of the season. Like, it's going to be tough. So this is the time where Arsenal and Liverpool have to go out there and put some space between them and Manchester City. Like, we got to hope that we can take some points off them. Hopefully Brighton can take some points off them. Hopefully, Arsenal can take some points off them. A lot of big games. So I can't wait to see how this season ends up. But if I have to pick with my heart, I've got to back that Liverpool are going to win the league, especially with this being Klopp's last season. But if I'm trusting my gut and my head, it's got to be Manchester City. Who do you think is going to win the league? Drop that in the comment section down below. I'll reply to all the comments so we can banter in the comment section. And if I provided some value to you over the course of this video, please just drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.